Hello everyone, my name is Jekka, and I have already survived on uninhabited islands with my Hawaiian pole spear and with one knife. And I travel to tropical islands, I spearfish, and I hunt underwater. I practice bushcraft and I constantly test my survival skills. Once I even caught a shark. And today, I will again be in the forest for 24 hours without food and water. I will need to get all this on my own. I just need to survive. And as usual at dawn, my survival begins. It's quite fresh in the mountains in the morning, which is why I put on my mosquito suit. Exploring tropical jungles and coniferous forests, I studied slopes of this volcano, and when possible, I packed in my backpack everything useful that I found on my way. But look at the whole tree just covered with some mushrooms. But unfortunately, I don't understand these species, so I won't eat them. And here's something that for me at first glance looks like some kind of cactus, but it's actually dragon fruit. And this amazingly beautiful fruit is called jackfruit from afar. It looks very much like a green basketball. And the size of this fruit is quite surprising. Jackfruit is widely used in cooking, both ripe and not ripe. Not ripe fruits are used fried, boiled, or stewed. All parts of the plant, even the peel, contain adhesive latex. Therefore, it is better to cut the fruit by greasing the knife with sunflower oil. The most important thing for me is that jackfruit fruits are very nutritious and contain about 40% carbohydrates. This is more than in bread, which is why in India it is called bread for the poor. I think you're wondering what tools I'm going to use in these 24 hours to survive. Let me show you what I have in my backpack. First of all, my Swiss knife, which is compact but very functional. Of course, flint for making a fire is more difficult to use than a lighter or matches, but it is more reliable. It doesn't get damp and doesn't break. The third item is my axe. And this time I'm going to use a spearfishing mask, as well as my homemade Hawaiian pole spear. Hawaiian pole spear is a primitive handmade spearfishing kind of rifle. Tonight, before going to bed, I was spearfishing with my new mini Hawaiian pole spear, and I managed to catch quite a few big fish. My first task is to make a fire and cook some fish for breakfast. I found large bamboo trunks and came up with a very interesting idea. But for that, I'm going to need a bamboo bigger in diameter. And I know one place where I can get it. I'm taking my knife out of my pocket and I'm going to use it like a saw. I saw off the piece of bamboo that I need. This piece of bamboo with one knot at the bottom will serve me as an alternative pot. I can cook broth in it. I put the knife back in my pocket, take the bamboo with me. Also, in the place of my old fire, I'm going to collect some charcoal. I can use it to make a primitive fresh water filter, or I can use it make it easier to make a fire again. Now I have to go down to the lake, and I'll tell you right away, my way there wasn't always perfect. Fortunately, I put on my anti-mosquito suit in time. Its fabric material is very dense and it completely protected me from scratches and abrasions. Friends, I'm more than sure I found a pheasant's nest. I'll see if there are any eggs in here. I was never able to see or record the bird on camera. But I recorded the sound of this bird. Who knows what kind of bird it could be. I'm moving on through the coniferous forest towards the tropical jungle. I have also spotted a clove tree. We often use the seeds of the flower as a seasoning, but now is not the right season. There are no flowers. So I will collect a couple of leaves. It will be kind of an alternative to bay leaves. It will come in handy in my arsenal of harvested herbs. And now, I'm going in the direction of the fast river. I want to get some fresh water. Look at the beautiful lizard I saw on my way, but as soon as it noticed me, it ran away. The water in the river was quite cloudy because it recently rained a little. But because this river is a landmark of this island, it was clean and beautiful around. I walked along the river and looked under the rocks. Maybe here near the river there may be crabs or some crayfish, shrimp, or maybe fish. It can be seen that the water level has dropped a lot just recently because all the stones were covered with green, slippery underwater vegetation, which made it very difficult and quite dangerous to move around. I needed to study this location thoroughly, and my main task is to find clean sources which form this river so I can get clean fresh water. Here you can see a clean source of fresh water. It is in full swing, right from the rock. I need to check it out. That's right, the water next to this spring is much cleaner. I'll collect it here. Look at these beautiful sculptures some locals made from a huge stone with their own hands. Yes, the water is clean enough, but you can't drink it just like that. This can be dangerous. It has to be filtered well, and it must be boiled afterwards. I pick the bottle and move on. The place is very beautiful, and I will definitely come back here. In order to pre-purify the water from the river, I will use my stationary primitive filter, which I made last time. I just pour the water here and wait for it to filter through the charcoal filter. But after that, I need to boil it. Well, look at the result. There is no dust and dirt. The water is much cleaner. On the way, I saw a small lime tree with very young fruits. I will definitely collect a couple of fruits. I can use them when cooking fish or for some herbal tea. So I will also put them in my backpack. I put lime in my backpack and I go down to the lake. I need to pick up my Hawaiian pole spear there. Time flies by. I have already spent a lot of energy, as well as water from my body. All this must be replenished. So it's time to cook the fish stock in a bamboo pot. Today I am lucky with the weather. It is a very nice and sunny day. I will make a brazier for my pot from frozen lava fragments. I will make the brazier in a round shape to place in the middle a piece of bamboo in which the broth will be cooked. To light a fire, I'll need my down as tinder, a dry coconut shell, and the charcoal I picked this morning. And of course, my knife, or rather the magnifying glass in it. I will try to make a fire with the magnifying glass. The size of this magnifying glass is very small, so the beam is weak. To make my chances higher, I need to prepare the right tinder. To do this, I use down and rub it well with coal or ash. Chop the coal and I will need to get the down mixed with it. And now I roll it all tightly into one roller. Down with ash is much better. But while I was preparing this tinder, the sky was covered with small clouds and the sun's rays were not enough. This time, I didn't manage to make a fire with a magnifying glass. I decided not to waste my time and use my flint. With this kind of tinder, in good sunny weather, I was able to get fire easily using only a magnifying glass. What can I say? I even managed to make a fire with just a plastic bottle of water from the ocean on a desert island without anything else. But that's a completely different story. I'm not going to waste any more time. I am very hungry. I put down on the coconut peel some dry grass on top and small branches. With the help of the flint and my knife, I make fire easily and quickly. Now I need to add firewood. I insert a bamboo pot right in the middle of the fire. And inside it I pour fresh and already filtered water. Ready, while the water boils, I'll prepare the ingredients, but to make the water boil faster, I cover the pot with a lid. As you remember in the last episode, I managed to get the roots of a plant called cassava. It tastes very similar to potatoes. If you want to know more about what cassava is and where I found it, take a look at the previous episode. I cut fish with a knife. And now I'm throwing it in boiling water. Now I need to prepare cassava, wash it thoroughly and clean it, but the fruit is big enough, half of it is enough for me. It is quite easy to peel, like young potatoes. I slice it. Tastes like raw and slightly sweet potatoes. I think it is better to cook it. Now I put these African potatoes into a bamboo pot. And do not forget the main ingredients, namely clove leaves and lime fruits, to give your broth an additional aroma and flavor. I cut the lime and add it to the broth. While the broth is brewing, I don't want to waste time. I'll prepare my Hawaiian pole spear and go underwater. Maybe I'll be able to catch something for tomorrow. Because I've been here before, the water seemed a little cleaner. I looked closely at the various wooden structures, but noticed that the water level had dropped significantly, and in the places where I had previously caught large tilapia, now there were only very small species. I searched under every tree, under every wooden structure, but I didn't see any big fish. Meanwhile, the water in the pot is boiling. I'll throw some fresh firewood. Let it boil for another 5 minutes and it will be ready. Because there is moisture inside the bamboo, despite the open fire, it does not burn, but only the water inside boils. Next to my camping, I noticed some fruits of jackfruit, and I decided to cut one to eat it, and make a plate from its shell, which I can use for my broth. But it was a bad idea. The reason is that jackfruit juice is somewhat reminiscent of liquid rubber or chewing gum. It sticks to everything. My fingers, my knife, and then it's impossible to wash it off. I spent about half an hour washing my hands with sand. This fruit is a real troublemaker. If you don't know how to clean it properly, it's better not to try. But since I have to survival for 24 hours, its fruits have been quite valuable to me. I ate everything I could get, and I also hid some of it in my backpack for later. The plate could not be made from the shell. It was rotten from the inside, so I will drink the broth directly from the pot. And finally, my broth is ready. Despite the fact that the bamboo below is burning, it is completely undamaged, and the liquid is safely stored inside. I taste it. Well, it could have been delicious, but I made a big mistake. I threw lime into the broth along with the peel, and it gave it a lot of bitterness, so I couldn't drink much of it. And here are all the ingredients that I cooked in this broth, which I will gladly eat. As a plate, I used this prickly piece of cactus. Pouring out everything that was cooked onto this leaf. Thanks to these thorns, it will stay in place. Well, almost everything. This is very delicious, even tastier than potatoes. It's very similar to boiled carp. I had a very filling and, most importantly, healthy lunch. I put on my backpack, take my Hawaiian pole spear, and we'll move on. Since the sun was at its zenith and it was very hot and scorching, I decided to hide in the forest. Without wasting time, I decided to make a small shelter. A shack from the scorching sun and the cold wind that blows from the mountains at night. Well, I'll start working on it. For this, I will need my axe. First, I need to clear the area a bit. Now I simply bend a small raw tree down, and it will be the basis of the frame for my future shack. Using branches, I just tie around the trunk of the tree. Now I need to find more long branches to make the crossbars. For this, I use the axe again. The long branches will be used for the construction of the shack, and the short ones and leftovers will serve as firewood. I also need to gather firewood for the night to keep warm or cook something on the fire. I lean the long branches diagonally, now using shorter ones horizontally. I make crossbars in a checkerboard pattern, weaving them together. During such weaving, the frame is firmly fixed together. It doesn't even need to be tied up additionally. Time flies and I'm hungry again, so I'll start a fire and cook another fish. To start the fire, I'll gather some dry grass and dry leaves. By the way, the last time I cooked fish on these leaves, I told you that the fish has a very tasty and fragrant smoke smell. And only now I understood why. At first glance, these leaves may be unfamiliar to you, but I assure you that 90% of people know this smell very well. Write to me in the comments if you already recognize the leaves of which tree I am gathering now. I put the dry grass and leaves in the base and add some branches. I'll make a fire with the help of a flint and a knife. I've got fire. I'll cut 2 stag and make a small spit. I put the fish on the branch. The brazier is ready while the fish is fried. I can rest for a while. What a beautiful golden crust and smoked smell from eucalyptus leaves. So I keep making my hut. With the help of small branches, I cover my hut. The more time I spend doing this, the more effective the shelter will be. If you try hard, you can achieve such a result that this hut will protect you even from the rain. But not in my case. I have limited time. So this is just an imitation of a possible option for building a hut. After 15 minutes, my fish is ready, fried and smoked. It's time to have a snack. Since there are a lot of flies in this forest, they all flew to the leftovers of the fish, and I decided to make use of this. Namely, I will collect all the fish leftovers in a plastic bottle and make small holes in it. Through these holes, the flies will be able to fly inside the bottle, lay their eggs, and in just a couple of days, there will be maggots here, which are a very effective bait for fishing. The main thing is to keep this bottle away from where I set up my camp. I tie my hammock under the hut. Check the construction. It stays in place safely. This is much better. Of course, not perfect. Well, at least the cold from the ground will not affect my body. Well, my primitive refuge from the scorching sun or the cold wind that blows from the volcano is basically ready. I had a great snack, big enough tilapia that I caught last night. If you missed that episode, make sure to check it out. Well, now I can lie down and take a nap with a clear conscience. Flies are so annoying, there are a lot of flies here. Probably more than mosquitoes. So I put on a mosquito net and sleep like this. Time flew by very quickly. The sun went below the horizon and it got noticeably colder. So I need to pick up some branches and make a fire to keep myself warm. While I was looking for firewood, I almost got lost a couple of times. Well, in the end, I found my camp. I sat by the fire for an hour to get warmer. And it's time to go to bed and hope that this night will be warm and without rain. In the morning, I can say that I hardly slept, as it is cicada season. These are big flies that make a very loud and nasty sound that makes it very difficult to fall asleep. After 4 o'clock in the morning, these cicadas create a very noisy rumble throughout the forest. And it is simply impossible to sleep. So I roll up my hammock, put it in my backpack, and go on in search of new adventures. but I can still say that this survival was very interesting. As you can see, you can always get food and water. The main thing is to know how. And I'm on my way to the ocean. I am heading to the volcano, to the slope further away. I want to go down to the ocean and check my survival skills there. But for now, I have a very long way ahead of me. There's a waterfall up ahead, where I'm going to climb down and try to get my food and get some fresh water. And of course you are wondering what I am going to use today for my survival. So let me open my backpack and show you. The first and the most important thing is my Swiss knife. The knife is quite small, but it is very reliable and very functional. A fire starter for making fire. It's much more reliable than a lighter or matches because it won't get damp or break. And a roll of fishing line with a small hook. Also, my homemade Hawaiian pole spear. I went down to the river to get some fresh water. And also, to try to hunt for crabs or crayfish or fish. That's why, of course, I brought my Hawaiian pole spear with me. I found quiet areas of the river and carefully looked under the water. Often in such places you can find fish, or under the rocks, there is a chance to find crabs. But ahead of me, I saw a waterfall and a small lake under it. Maybe there are fish there. I'll go check it out. In the place where the water falls, an entire cave was formed. And because of the high humidity, all the rocks and stones are covered with green vegetation and moss. There were very long vines hanging from the trees, and monkeys are jumping and playing around on them. Look, a very small fish, but it's good. Friends, I have good news. I looked carefully into the water of the lake, which was formed at the foot of the volcano, and saw minnows. I'll make a primitive fishing rod and try to catch something. And if there are small fish, there should be some bigger ones. I take out my knife. I will need it to make a primitive fishing rod. On the opposite bank, I noticed a long piece of bamboo, but it was thick enough for a fishing rod. I split it in two and broke off one piece about 1.5 meters long. I will use it to make my primitive fishing rod. Using a knife, I split this fragment into 2 more pieces. The fish here is small, so I do not need a strong rod. It should be light, flexible, and convenient. Using the knife, I'll make the sharp edges softer. Also on shore, I found a couple of floating things, like styrofoam and something resembling a sole from a slipper. I will use them to make a float. On one side of the rod, I make a notch with a saw. This is where I will attach my fishing line. I take out a fishing line and a hook. The fishing line I will tie with a basic noose. Tighten and check, it's holding fine. Now, I need to measure the right length of line so that I could cast it standing up. Now I tie the hook. From these floating materials I make a float. I like the slipper piece better. That's what I'm going to use to make the float. Using a knife, I form the future body of the float and put a small bamboo chip inside. The upper part of the float will be as thin as possible, so as not to be affected by the wind, and the float should be as informative as possible, showing even the smallest and most delicate bites. My float is ready. In some places there are clear springs of fresh water running right out of the rock. Now it needs to be checked and balanced correctly. Added some weight and added another slipper fragment. The rigging is now perfectly balanced. It works great. My main goal today is crabs, so I've been checking all the nooks and crannies along the way, hoping to spot them. My rod is ready, and now I need to find some bait. To do this, I began to pick up rocks. Often there are small worms. as well as bugs or woodlice, which make very good bait. Here, under the first rock, I found a small moth, such a small little red worm. And this big rotten log, I decided to check with a knife, but I couldn't find any bait there. I pick up various branches, pick up rocks on dry land in a damp place, and also pick up rocks right in the water. But there were neither crabs nor bait. And here I noticed another source of fresh water coming from the rock, and there were a lot of rotten leaves underneath. It's the perfect place to look for the common earthworm there. And I was not mistaken, the worms do not differ from ours, only they are more delicate. As soon as I touch them, they fall apart into parts. Well, it's time to try out my fishing rod and get some catch. I put the worm on the hook and cast. And from the first casting I caught a small fish. Looks very small, but it is something. I'll keep catching fish. Maybe I'll catch something bigger. I put the fish in my pocket. I did not expect this at all. The fish is very active. Although it is small, but there is a lot of it with every throw. Fishing was very dynamic. And most importantly, productive. I was catching 3-4 fish from each spot. The catch was so active that I began to worry that I would not have enough bait because the fish were small bait I used very carefully. And by the way, the rod worked just fine. It was not heavy, but elastic and successfully hooked small fish. Who would have thought there would be such productive fishing in such a small lake? My intuition didn't let me down, and the primitive rod did its job well. I decided to change my fishing spot and went to the center of the lake, where it is deeper. And again, from the first throw, I caught a fish. Now I will always use a small primitive rod and check out even the most hopeless places. Well, the taste, of course, not very good, but still a little snack, and the rest of the fish I later roast on the fire. With my primitive fishing rod, I caught some fish. There is something to eat, and now I will move on. I reeled the line onto my rod, set the hook, filled a bottle with fresh water, and put it in my backpack. I gathered my things and went on looking for crabs. This river sped up and formed into a high waterfall. I can't get through here, so we have to go back up. It was getting late and the sun was setting over the horizon. Very quickly the night fell, and just as I found a place to set my hammock to sleep overnight, a little rain came down. I was very upset because I wasn't prepared for that at all. I knew it was going to be a very difficult night. I started looking for a place where I could wait out the rain. I took off my mosquito suit so it wouldn't get wet, and I am wearing just shorts and a jacket. If I get wet, I can take them off and replace them with a suit and get warm in the dry suit. While I was looking for a place to hide from the rain, I noticed something moving in the grass. I took out my flashlight and found a crab. It was a mango crab. They grow very large, and I was immediately in a better mood. I took this crab in my hand and heard it again, a rustling in the grass, and there was just the perfect jackpot waiting for me. Look how big the crab is. It's just a giant, and its claw is almost as big as my palm. Most importantly, it was a male, so with a clear conscience, this catch can be taken in my backpack. I finally found a crab and am taking the opportunity, while I'm awake, to look for more crabs and try to catch them for tomorrow. I throw this giant one right in my backpack. I'm going to collect them alive so they don't go bad in the morning, and I can cook a fresh crab anytime I want. I put the backpack on my back, grab my flashlight, and go on with my search. I realized that when it got darker, the crabs started to come out of their holes. I quietly studied the terrain, peering under the dry, rotten palm leaves, and that's where the crabs were most often found. Here's another one. Look, as I realized the light from the flashlight blinded the crab and he couldn't see me until I picked him up. As soon as the crabs spotted me, they immediately ran away or flipped over on their backs, raising their claws up to attack me. I put another crab in my backpack, but I noticed a hole in the grass, another big crab sticking out of it. I quietly approached it, and just as I was about to grab it, it hid in the hole. I took him by one claw, but it wasn't enough. He was holding on very tightly, and if I had pulled any further, I would have just torn his claw off. So I let him go, but that's okay. I found a mango next to its hole. I'll take it in my backpack too. Again, I hear rustling, and it is somewhere here in the bushes. I look closely and see a crab, but it is deep under the grass. Dug it out a little bit and got it. Look what a giant, very big claw. The crab itself was small, but the claw was huge. I wouldn't want him attacking my finger with it. These crabs were very strong. Another catch goes to my backpack. I put the backpack on my back and move on. Near another hole in the ground, I found a mango, but it is already rotten. There are worms in it. But this one is quite good. I'm taking it in my backpack too. I move on and notice another hole from which a very large crab is looking out. It is the biggest crab I've ever seen. Its claw was just unrealistically big. I had such an adrenaline rush, I tried to get close to him as quietly as possible. I used a flashlight to blind him. There was literally half a meter between us, but it managed to run away into its hole. It was very frustrating. It was the biggest crab I had ever seen. I should definitely come back here and try to catch him after all. And there are 3 crabs sitting right here in the same place. Look, just choose which one is bigger. When I grabbed it, the other 2 crabs nearby just hid in the grass. And I realized I could pick up another one. Only I needed to free one hand. I put the camera down and took the second crab with my other hand. I am so lucky. 2 big crabs at the same time. I could only dream of such a successful crab hunt with my bare hands. For a long time, I was looking for a place where I could look for crabs, and just like that, all of a sudden, right in the middle of the night, I found this place. All of the crabs I took were just males. The females with eggs I was releasing back into the wild, and I also started to be picky about the sizes. And look at this crab. It was big enough, but it only had 1 small claw in it, would be very little meat for me, so I let it go. This crab, on the other hand, is small, but the claw is huge and there will be a lot of meat in it, so I'll take it. A little more and he would have bitten me very fast. I'll take a branch to distract him, because I have only 1 free hand. You must hold a crab by its backside so that its claws cannot reach your fingers. Look at that interesting purple color. I held the camera with 1 hand, held the flashlight with my teeth, and hunted for crabs with 1 hand. The only drawback was that the biggest crabs I found ran away. They had to be caught somehow from a bigger distance, but that's okay. I wasn't upset at all. I caught 8 big crabs, and that would be enough. While I was catching crabs, the rain stopped, and I found a place where I could place my hammock and spend the night. Honestly, it was a very interesting night, but in terms of sleep, one of the worst. I'll try to sleep in the afternoon when the sun comes out. Everything was wet and damp, and I knew that I needed to make a fire to cook my food. First, I need something to eat for breakfast, and for that I have mangoes. I take it out of my backpack, and in order to cut it, I will need my knife. The mango is cut into 2 pieces. Inner pulp I cut into cubes, and I turn it inside out. It's the easiest way to clean it and eat it. Well, this is a little more fun. I'll take off my hammock so it won't get wet if it rains. I'll roll it up and put it back in my backpack. Now I have to find dry leaves, but I found another mango on the way. It rains a bit again, and I hid under the leaves to wait it out. In the meantime, I'll finish the second part of the mango. The wind moved the clouds a little, and the rain stopped, and the sun comes out occasionally, and so it is starting to warm up. Earlier, I found a bush where lime grows. I'm going to pick some and put it in my pocket. Now the main task is to find some dry leaves. The leaves are damp on the ground after the rain. On the other hand, the leaves on the trees are dried by the wind, and they are already good enough to make a fire. Now I will need small branches. Even though they're a little damp on top, it's no big deal. The main thing is to make a fire. The moisture on top will evaporate, and the dry wood inside will catch fire without any problems. In order to start a fire, I use my fire starter and knife. The leaves caught fire very quickly, but the branches took some time. I will surround my fire in a circle with stones, so that the charcoal that forms will stick together. Now I'll take the crabs out of my backpack. I put them in a small paper bag and threw leaves in there to keep them moist and the crabs alive till the morning. I won't cook all the crabs at once. I'll have 3 for breakfast, and that will be enough for me. While I was showing you the crabs on camera, a couple escaped from the bag. One even ran into the fire without my help. The crabs need to be sedated before cooking. I prepared 3 crabs, put the rest back in the backpack. The fire has already burned out and there are good coals on which I will put the crabs. By the way, friends, write me in the comments ideas on how else to cook crabs, the ones that I haven't eaten yet. I need to cut 1 palm leaf. I'm gonna cut it into pieces and cover the crabs so they cook faster. I'll keep 1 piece of leaf to use as a plate. After 5 minutes, I flip the crabs. The smell is very appetizing. The crabs do not need to be cooked for a long time, so that the meat remains juicy and tender. I can't wait to taste them. A couple more minutes, and when the crabs are ready, I cover them with leaves and wait. I wasted a lot of calories and water from my body all day. They must be replenished. Earlier, I showed you how you can get fresh water with a banana palm. The core of the banana palm is white, very juicy. You need to cut out a couple of pieces and chew it well to get the water. The pulp you don't need to eat. Here's a look at how much fresh water I get from literally a few pieces of banana palm core. The second option for extracting fresh water is to use a knife to cut an entire well in the root part of the palm tree, and in just a couple of minutes, it will fill with clean fresh water, which can later be scooped out and used. Look at literally 5 minutes later, the hole I made with a knife was filled with fresh water. This is another way to get fresh water in the rainforest. And my crabs are ready. I'm gonna take it out, put them right on top of these banana palm leaves. Look how mouth-watering it looks. I was very happy. I had dreamed of catching crabs and cooking them over a fire for so long. Well, I'll start with the claw. Use a knife to break it up and get the meat out. I don't throw away crab torsos. There's plenty of meat there too. Since I don't use salt during this time of survival out in the woods to add extra flavor to the crab meat, I use lime. I just cut it in 2 halves and sprinkle the juice on the crab meat well. I don't want to sit on wet ground, so I'll put some leaves under. Well, friends, bon appetit, my long-awaited lunch. Look how beautiful juicy crabs are. Since I fried the crabs for a short time, the meat turned out as I wanted it to be, juicy and very tender. There was a lot of meat in the large claws, but you could also pick out the small legs and get mini crab sticks. The meat tastes sweet. I was missing salt a little, to be honest. Next time, I will use salt that I got from the ocean. But even without salt, the meat is very tasty. Oh. All I'm missing is a mug of cold kvass. If I manage to catch more crabs, I will try to go down to the opposite side of the volcano, to the ocean, get some seawater and boil the crabs in it. Well, friends, I can say that this survival experience was very interesting, and as you see, food and water can be found everywhere. The main thing is to know how to do it and what things to use. And I'll be getting ready for my next crab hunt, taking my way across the top of the volcano to the ocean. I'm going to find food for the whole day because my main goal is to survive at all costs. I think you're wondering what I'm going to use in these 24 hours for my survival. Let me show you what I have in my backpack. The first and foremost is my Swiss knife, compact but very functional. And of course the fire starter for making a fire. In order to cook many large crabs at once, I got an old aluminum pot from the locals. And I will carry this pot around with me today. Also, my DIY Hawaiian pole spear. As usual, my adventures begin at sunrise in the morning. I set out in search of new adventures. Yesterday, near the place where I camped at night, I managed to catch big crabs. Half of them I cooked and half of them I saved for today. Since all the crabs are still alive, I didn't need any kind of refrigerator to keep them fresh. And I can kickstart my morning with a good breakfast. I managed to find a couple of mangoes at night, so now I cut it open with a knife and turn it inside out. It's quite humid in the morning, and there are a lot of snails on the trees. I'll take note of that. I get 3 big crabs out of my backpack, make a fire, and cook them on the coals. It's going to be a tough day, so I could use an extra source of protein. It takes very little time to cook them, about 10 minutes and it's done. The main thing is to turn them in time so that the meat doesn't become too dry and stays juicy and tender. 10 minutes later, my crabs are ready. I put them out on a banana leaf and take a small bite. This smell is hard to put into words. It's very tasty and mouth-watering. The weather is very changeable here. It rains a little, and just a few minutes later comes the scorching sun and unbearable heat. And using my anti-mosquito suit is very difficult at times. And to make the crab meat even tastier, I'll pick a couple of limes and add some juice to the crab meat. It's really good. I move on, going closer to the waterfall. I want to get some fresh water and wash my face a little. On my way, I find fruits that are already familiar to me, and this time I am not tempted to cut them and take them with me. For me, jackfruit is a very problematic fruit. And I see another jackfruit and another one. But wait a minute, it's a durian. A very unique fruit. Many people adore it and many hate it because of its smell. But in my opinion, this fruit is quite tasty and very healthy. Also on my way I find some mushrooms, but I do not know this type, so I will not touch them. I am slowly getting closer down to the waterfall. This is a new location since I have not been here before. All around me are tall palm trees with coconuts. And most importantly, lots of fresh water. Water was oozing from everywhere. I climbed into a small canyon where I was surrounded by rocks and caves. It is an amazing place, and the waterfall itself is mesmerizing in its beauty. Look how beautiful it is. I moved downstream and looked carefully under my feet, hoping to catch some more fish or crabs. And in front of me opens up a very beautiful place. Just look, it's like in a fairy tale. Yes, I should probably stick around for a while. Further down the river narrowed, and there were a lot of cobwebs and big spiders in my way. I decided I should go back and set up a camp near this little waterfall. I get my wooden plate out of my backpack. It's made out of a palm tree trunk, as well as a couple of mango fruits I found last night, and some of the stinky durian. I use a knife to cut the mango into 2 parts, then cut the flesh into these little cubes and turn it inside out. And from the second half you need to cut a large pit, and also cut the flesh into cubes. With durian it's easier. It's like a big chestnut. It splits into slices and the fruit falls out without any effort. The mango pit, of course, I will not leave out either. I eat all of the pulp. It is very sweet and juicy. Durian smells like some rotten onions, but the taste is sweet enough. It has a very special aftertaste, as if you eat delicious dumplings. But the smell after is not the most pleasant smell. It is the same with durian. But the mango was very ripe and juicy and sweet. By the way, this fruit is one of my favorites. I clean my knife and plate near the waterfall. I still have a couple of pieces of crab left. I'll eat it too. Look how big the claw is and how much meat is inside. I have come to the conclusion that crabs are a very convenient food for a survivalist like myself. Since they can be kept alive for several days and you do not need a fridge, just take a crab out of your backpack when you need a snack, cook it, and you're good to go. It obviously doesn't work this way with fish. I wash the plate and knife and put them back into my backpack. I'll need the fruits later too. We need to go around this area and study it better. The river was narrowing and I knew there would be no fishing here. There was no point in moving on, but on my way I saw trunks of bamboo. I'll take one. I want to make a small cup from it. I already have a plate, but I don't have a cup. For this I use my knife, or rather a saw, which is in it. Though it is small but sharp and good enough. So the cup that I got is pretty small. On the way back, I found a huge cave.
Wow.
I love exploring places like this. Too bad I didn't bring a flashlight with. That would allow me go deeper in there. Wow, look at that cave and it goes further that way. I am on my way back to camp. In order to boil the crabs, I need to get fresh water from the waterfall. I use a pot to collect fresh water faster, and then I pour it from the pot to plastic bottles and put it back in my backpack. The water from the waterfall is very clean, but I will not drink it just like that. I will definitely have to boil it. Just look at these giants. I really hope that today I can catch even bigger crabs with my Hawaiian pole spear. And if you enjoy catching crabs, be sure to write me in the comments. Let's catch more crabs. I freshened up a bit, picked up some fresh water, and moved on. On the way back, I came across a small sort of lake in which I noticed a small tilapia was swimming close to the surface. I took out my homemade fishing slingshot and started hunting. When I saw a small golden-colored koi carp in the water, I realized that this pond is private and it would be really inappropriate to hunt here. The day flew by very quickly. The sun went behind the horizon and the night has come. Back at my camp, I need to be well prepared for the night crab hunt. But this time, I'm going to use a Hawaiian pole spear. I take my backpack and a sling and go on a search. I know that when it gets dark, the crabs come out of their holes to hunt. I return to the same place where I was catching crabs yesterday, and in just a couple of minutes, I saw the first crab of very good size. There's no point in shooting crabs because if I don't keep the crabs alive, I'll need a cooler or a fridge. And since I don't have that, they'll just go bad in the morning. So my job is to use a Hawaiian pole spear to catch all the crabs but keep them alive. I will put my catch in my backpack and later put it in a paper bag. Moving on. And again, I find mango fruits. One of them was good. I will take it in my backpack. I try to move through the thickets. I found the fern bushes and hide in there. I heard some noise. And right in front of me runs a big crab, and he almost managed to hide in the grass. But with the help of a spear, I pushed him to the ground. And at the same moment, really close, I noticed just a huge crab. I go through the grass and try to catch this monster. And the other crab is still pinned by my spear. It is not moving, and so I try to get two big crabs from the same spot. Wow, look at that monster. This is a very large crab. Just look at this handsome fellow. There's another one here. Now we have to get the other one. It is very difficult to do it with one hand. The crabs cling very tight to the grass, but I soon managed to get another one. And now just look, from one spot I managed to catch two huge crabs. It's a little easier to do with the Hawaiian pole spear. They didn't have time to run away to their holes. That's lucky. I'm sure these crabs will make a very tasty broth, and I know I didn't drag the whole pot behind me for nothing. I put them in my backpack and move on. I look down carefully under my feet and use my Hawaiian pole spear to lift the leaves and move the grass in front of me. I hear rustling in the grass again. I went to a place where there were some ruins. Some brick structure had collapsed. And among these stones, I found 3 crabs at once. I hold the biggest immediately with the sling and take him in my hands. His claws are very strong. He even managed to take away my tip from the sling. Let it go and go to my backpack to hang out with your friends. And here in the grass right next to the hole, I managed to catch another truly gigantic crab. And these weird visual effects were created by my camera, so I am sorry for that. Look at this giant. It's the biggest crab I've ever caught. He's just a monster. That's clearly my new record. Just look at the size of his claw compared to my hand. Wow! It was not for nothing that I brought the Hawaiian pole spear today. This time I stopped him and he did not have time to hide in his hole. I'm amazed by this hunting. It's just a dream. I've been looking for so long for a place where I can catch big crabs, and here I am. It is a paradise. I'm sure I'll have enough food for tomorrow. I didn't bring the pot with me for nothing. It is time to go back to camp. I will go to bed with a sense of accomplishment. The night was very turbulent with thunder and lightning keeping me awake. but I was very tired all day, and eventually I managed to get some sleep. In the morning, I can say that I had quite a good night's sleep. I found out that this slightly diagonal position in the hammock allows you to keep your back straight, and it was quite comfy. It's time to cook the crabs, but first I have to make a fire using small branches. I put everything in one pile. I'll prepare the tinder, and with the help of the flintlock and my knife, I'll make a fire. I managed to do it very quickly and easily. Perfect, I have a fire now. I take out the pot and the crabs. The crabs are all alive and very active, which means that my food is as fresh as possible. Now the water I picked up yesterday under the waterfall from the bottles needs to be poured through my primitive filter and purified beforehand. And only after that I can use it for cooking. The filter works very simply and quickly, and if you want to know how I made it, you can check out previous episodes. I put the pot on the stones and pour the filtered water into it. I close the lid and wait for it to boil. To make the crabs tasty, I will use the herbs I collected earlier. First of all, I will take a few cloves leaves. I will use it as an alternative to the bay leaf. This is a small sprig that I'm going to grind up and put in the pot. I also cut off a couple of pieces from the dried ginger root. And also to add some Asian flavor, I'll make sure to add some lemongrass, a very fragrant herb. I use a knife to cut off a little bit, give it a good rub in my hands and throw it into the pot. In the future, I want to find a small cast iron pot in which I can roast, boil, and stew my food, but I don't have one yet, so this aluminum pot would do for now. And of course, you can't cook crabs without salt. This time I decided to use my reserve of sea salt, which I extracted with my own hands by a primitive method earlier. And for those of you who haven't seen in the last episodes of my show how to extract salt from ocean water, I encourage you to check this fascinating process out. While the water is boiling, I can already smell the herbs. I'm sure that the crabs will turn out very tasty. While I'm not far from banana palms, I want to show you another method of how you can get fresh water from a banana palm trunk. To do this, I will need a small piece of bamboo. This method is very similar to collecting birch sap. I just stick a fragment of bamboo in the trunk of a banana palm tree. And along the small hollow side of the bamboo, the water flows into the container. And my bamboo cup came in handy for that. The broth was already boiling, and the smell was wafting throughout the jungle. It's time to cook the crabs. Before I cook them, I have to put them to sleep, because if you cook crabs alive, they shed all their limbs reflexively. That's not very humane, so I'll put all the crabs to sleep beforehand. Once again, all my prey is only males. I always release females back into the wild. Now I need to clean the crabs. I remove tails and intestines. The water is boiling now, so I can put crabs into the broth. The crabs are very large and hardly fit in the pot. It is going to take 10 minutes to cook them, so I need to throw more wood into the fire. While the crabs are boiling, I decided to take a rest and recharge my batteries. The place where I camped was fabulous, very comfortable as well. I even had green pineapples growing around me. But since it wasn't me who planted them, I won't collect them either. But I came up with a very interesting idea. Since pineapples grow very fast, I will take a small pineapple seedling and plant my own pineapple, wait till it grows it, and then I will eat it. Friends, it's very hot today, just unbearable. But I can't be here without a suit, because there are so many mosquitoes. I can't wait to eat my crabs and go down to the waterfall and swim in the fresh, cold water. It is just way too hot. 5 more minutes, I think it'll be ready. While I was in the hammock, a lot of different thoughts crossed my mind. I was also thinking about making my own little vegetable garden, where I would plant vegetables and fruits. The crabs are almost ready. I need to add the lime juice, but this time I won't throw the rind in there. Last time it ruined everything, and the broth ended up being very bitter. So I just squeezed the juice from the fruit into the broth. If only I could convey this smell through the camera. It looks and smells delicious. It's almost ready. Just a few more minutes and I can take crabs out. In the meantime, I'll use my knife to get another glass of banana palm juice. I only need to insert the blade in and push it down. It won't do any harm to the banana palm. It heals very quickly. Banana palm juice tastes a lot like the juice of a non-freshly squeezed cucumber. While I was getting fresh water, the crabs got cooked. I removed the pot from the fire. Wow, it looks so beautiful. I take out my handmade wooden plate and put the crabs on it. This plate is made from the trunk of a coconut palm tree. Just look at the color and texture. I want to put together a whole set of cookware that I can travel with and cook my prey on. Wow, look at the color of that crab. How mouth-watering it all looks. To be honest, the broth was not very good. The crabs had to be cleaned from the inside. But my main task was to cook my crabs, and I will make crab soup in the next episodes. Well, my dream came true. I managed to find a location where giant land crabs live. It's time to taste them. I'll start with this biggest claw. The meat was salty, juicy, tender, and rich. There was a slight taste and aroma of herbs that I added to this broth. There is a lot of meat in the torso of the crab too, in the place where its legs are attached. So the middle part does not have to be thrown away. Ginger root makes it a bit spicier. I used the perfect amount of spice. Well, I can tell you that this survival was a very interesting one, and it was delicious as well. I spent 24 hours in the tropical jungle, and I managed to get food and water. and today I have a new mission, using a primitive crab trap to catch my prey and survive in the woods for another 24 hours. And as usual at dawn, my survival begins. To survive today, I need to make a primitive crab trap. But first, I need to get some bait. I'll go to the waterfall to do that. I have not been there before. It is very interesting to see, and I'm pretty excited to show you the place as well. I need to get fresh water, make a primitive fishing rod, and catch some fish that I can use as bait in the crab trap. The place is very beautiful, a cascade of waterfalls and a small lake. I went closer to the lake to see if I can find small fish. I didn't notice any fish, but the water is pretty clear, which is good. The water here is more or less clean, so it means I'll get my supply of fresh water right here. It is very hot and humid. It's probably going to rain. Downstream from the waterfall there is a small river. I think I'll fish there. But first I have to make a new primitive fishing rod. I will need a fishing line, my Swiss knife, and as a fishing rod I will use a Hawaiian pole spear. I won't need a long rod, so it will do just fine. One side of the fishing line should be tied to the end of the sling. Since my Hawaiian pole spear has small pieces of duct tape on it, I use it to secure the fishing line so it doesn't slip. By the way, see how the water changed literally in 5 minutes. In the meantime, I keep making a primitive fishing rod. I measured the right length of line to make it comfortable to cast standing up. I still have the hook and sinker from the last rod, but the float is broken, so I need to make a new one. I can use a piece of the sole of a slipper to make it. I make a hole with an awl. While I was making my rod, the water level rose about a meter. The flow of water increased very rapidly, and it made the water dirty and muddy. It means it rained near the volcano in the mountains, and the rainwater flowed downstream. This thin fragment of branch would be great for my float. I break it off and put it inside that foam. With the help of a knife, I cut off unnecessary parts, make the float more responsive, so that it easily catches even the most delicate bite of small fish. My float is ready. A couple of days ago I was near the lake and I was grilling fish there. I kept the leftovers in a plastic bottle and made holes so that flies could easily fly in. After 2 days there are maggots there, which is very good bait for fishing. That's what I'm going to use. And that is a small and primitive rod I've made. Now I only need to find the right place to try it out. But the current is stronger now. The muddy water brought more trash. I can't fish here, so I need to find a new place where I can catch bait for crabs. Going downriver wouldn't make sense because the water would be muddy there as well. So the only option is to go upriver and try to pass the place where it rained, in the hope to find clear water upriver and catch bait for my crab trap there. It's not gonna work here anyway, so I need to go before it gets too late. Now that's just the jackpot. It's a snake fruit. It has a lot of vitamins. It has 5 times more vitamin A than my beloved watermelon. It is also quite nutritious and has a lot of carbs. I pick up the fruit and take it with me. I can just eat it on the go. Time flies very quickly, and I still have a lot to do, so I need not to lose time anymore. A couple of fruits as a snack is not enough for me at all. Because of the hot climate, I burn calories very quickly and I am already hungry. I will collect some snails and make a kebab. During the heat, snails often hide from the scorching sun at the bottom of the leaves, but I didn't find them there. These snails are called grape snails, but you have to be careful and collect only those snails that live on safe vegetation. Now, using a knife, I need to prepare a branch on which I will roast snails. I take a small branch of bamboo and sharpen it. I use 2 stones to break up the snails and get the meat. Snail meat should be cleaned, stomachs and inedible elements removed. You can only use the fleshy leg. I put it on a skewer. Visually, it looks something like muscle kebabs. Here's another, juicy snail. I use a knife to remove the stomach and put it on a skewer. The shish kebab is ready. To spice things up a bit, I'll add lime juice. It looks quite yummy. Now it's time to roast it on the coals. It takes only 5 minutes to fry snails. The main thing is not to forget to turn the kebab so that the meat does not burn. It took about 5 minutes and my kebab ready to be tasted. It tastes something like crawfish or mussels, but it has an unpleasant bitterness. But it will do since it is a good source of protein. I've had a little snack, so I can move on now. I have to go quite far, so I needed my food. And also, look what I found on my way. This is a very famous plant, most of you know its flavor. Before I say its name, write in the comments if you know what kind of tree it is. Yes, friends, it's cinnamon. It's an evergreen tree that belongs to the laurel family. Spices are made just from the bark of this tree. And by the way, cutting off this tree bark, I do no harm because it recovers very quickly. And I could use some cinnamon in my herb stockpile. I'll dry it and add it to my tea. By the way, another interesting fact is that the thinner the bark, the thinner the flavor of cinnamon. So if you manage to take it from a young tree, the taste will be even richer. I've walked about 10 kilometers upstream. The water is much cleaner here and the river is a little calmer. This is where I will test my rod. I unwind my rod. I check the tackle. The float is standing fine. And just in case you don't have any fishing bait, you can use a wormy fruit, like this mango for example. It has little worms inside that can also be used as bait. I take one out, put it on the hook, and cast the rod. Upstream fishing is almost like trout fishing. I threw it upstream, but the float changes its position very quickly, so I very often threw it over. Near the surface I saw a splash of small fish, but it didn't bite, most likely because of the muddy, dirty water. The sun was already slowly sinking below the horizon, and it is very important for me to catch at least one small fish. And finally, the long-awaited nibble. I caught a small fish. It's enough as bait for a crab. I'm going back to the jungle, to the places where I used to catch crabs. I spent a lot of calories and fluids from my body throughout the day, and I need to remember to replenish them. I saw a fallen banana palm on my way, so I'm going to take a moment and get some fresh water out of it. It's very simple. Using a knife, I cut off the trunk of a banana palm. Now the outer shell needs to be peeled off to get to the white core. The white core is porous and has a lot of fresh water in it. I can cut it and just chew it well, or use some kind of primitive press to squeeze out the water. Time flies by and the sun is already on the horizon, which means that I have about 40 minutes left to finish my trap. For the base of the trap, I took a wicker basket made of bamboo. These baskets are used to carry chickens. But I want to remake it and make it into a crab or fish trap. For this, I will need my Swiss knife. Done. Now I'm roughly trying it on. In order to put it all together, I will make a small notch across and use a knife to remove the middle part. The bamboo half fits nicely in this hole. Now all that's left is to fix 2 more pieces. Trying on the size, it fits perfectly. Now you have to put everything together. I make exactly the same horizontal notches on the top lintels, and using a knife I remove the middle part so that these lintels match the lower and upper part to connect everything. It's very strong. Now I'm going to wind 2 more small plates across with fishing line. This kind of door will need to be tied to the top. I have some small rubber bands that I use for the closing system when the trap will be triggered. It's dark now, and it is finally time to test the trap. I went back to where I was crabbing before. Well, friends, I've made my trap. Tomorrow, I will show you in more detail how the system closes, because it is very dark now. You will not see a thing. I am now going to the place where I was crabbing. The most important thing is to set the trap correctly, leave the bait inside. But there is something else I want to do, and it is even more difficult. I want to put a photo trap at the entrance to the crab trap. And if I manage to catch a crab in the trap, I want to record this on camera. To record the very moment the crab gets in there and gets caught is a super challenging mission. But I really hope I can make it happen. And you guys please support this video with like, no matter the outcome. This area with many crab holes is perfect. This is where I will hide my trap. And for it to be more stable, on the sides I will fix it with twigs and small palm fragments on both sides. That way my trap doesn't fall. I also need to put some leaves on top of the trap so it doesn't seem suspicious to the crabs. So I need to hide it a bit, and I'll throw some banana palm leaves inside too. I need to make the inside of the trap look like a hiding place for the crabs. I set my trap very carefully now. Now I will put my bait, the fish, and I take a piece of mango and put it in there as well. I use it because I know these crabs live near mango trees, which means they might love that fruit. I'll put the mango in the trap. Crabs are omnivores. They eat everything. And I would hope that if they don't like the fish, they will eat the mango. And I also took 2 banana palm tree trunks so that I can create something resembling a pathway for the crabs to get straight to the trap. I point the trunks of the palm tree toward the holes so that when the crabs come out to hunt, they immediately head toward my trap. I also had a little mango snack. The mango was very juicy and delicious. I hope the crabs like it as much as I do. I use the seed from the mango as bait, as well as the skin with enough fruit left on it to draw crabs' attention. The inside of the trap looks pretty comfy, and here on the rope is the catching system. But during the day, I will show you in more detail how it works. Well done. So what do you think? Will I catch something or not? Write in the comments and we will see quite soon. So, your bets now. Will the trap work or not? I think the trap is quite good and there are a lot of crabs here. I really hope that someone gets in there. And I really hope that if a crab gets in there, I manage to film it. In any case, it makes sense to try and see. I already can't wait to go and check. It's been about an hour and a half. I think it already makes sense to check the photo trap out and see how things are going there. I'll go and have a look. So friends, I see that the trap is closed. But I don't see anything inside. Most likely just a fuse went off and the trap closed. I caught nothing so far. I still need to work on the triggering mechanism. Look, there it is. There is a crab sitting inside that I did not notice at first. I need to show you this. Wow, look, it is here. There is nothing here, but look up. Look how pretty he is. That's a perfect bonus. It's pure luck, my friends. I'm super happy about that. I don't understand why the photo trap is on the ground. Maybe I pushed it with my butt when I approached. Photo trap, please, please, tell me you got this moment. Let me see if it's still recording. And how am I supposed to understand why there is nothing here? No numbers, nothing. Does it mean that it didn't record anything, or is it just in standby mode? Damn, please, I really hope it worked. And just now it lit up for a moment. I don't know. Maybe it's in standby mode. It just turns off. Well, look, it is half charged, so theoretically it should have worked. I really hope I managed to catch that moment on camera. This would be the most successful shot of a crab that I was able to catch on camera. I take out the prey, put the photo trap again, and point it at the trap. And I'm going to bed because I'm very tired from today. Maybe I'll catch another crab. And how do I get the crab out of the trap? That's the question now. It is pretty dangerous and uncomfortable to get that crab out. It clung very tightly to the trap with its claws.
Opa. Yes.
Just check out how nice it is. Look how good this one is. Wow, what a beast. Long story short, the trap triggering system broke. Maybe this crab broke it. Or I do not know, but somehow it doesn't work anymore. It needs to be fixed, which I'll probably do in the morning. It's very dark now, I can't see anything and I'm very tired. I'm sleepy and tired already. So for now, I have one big crab for breakfast, and in the morning I'll fix the trap and try to catch more crabs. But in any case, guys, it was a success. Now I'm going back to my hammock and I will try to rest. Well, friends, I am very glad that I got my first catch. Make your bets. Do you think I am gonna catch another one during the night? In any case, I'm very glad that the effort and time were not wasted, and that the trap works. You can use a trap like that not only on crabs, but also on small birds or on pheasant. The hole is big, the cage is big, and as you can see, the trap is working quite fine. And now, with a clear conscience, I can go to sleep. I hope it doesn't rain tonight, and I wish you a good night. This day of survival was very difficult, but I made it through. I managed to get food and water. And if you truly like this video, thumbs up. But today I will spend 24 hours by the lake at the foot of the volcano. I will try to get a trophy fish using a Hawaiian pole spear and cook my prey in a primitive smokehouse made of eucalyptus leaves. And of course you are wondering what I am going to use today for my survival. Let me show you what I've got. Here is a homemade crab trap, my Swiss knife, a fire starter, a mask and a snorkel, and of course, a Hawaiian pole spear. It's kind of a primitive shotgun for underwater hunting that I made with my own hands. Look at the beautiful sunrise, which means only one thing: my survival has begun. Last night, I managed to catch one large crab trap, and I want to cook it in the morning. And also to show you how my trap works and make some modifications and try to catch fish with it. I've only been catching crabs in the last few episodes, and I already missed the taste of fish a lot. And that is why today, I'm going to the lake. The lake was formed at the foot of the volcano in one of the craters. Look what a beauty I managed to catch tonight. All with the help of this little bamboo basket. Look how big his claw is, but during the day he is not active at all. The first thing I need to do is to make fire, and I will need my Swiss knife for that. It rained a little this morning and all the branches are wet, which makes it more difficult for me. First, I have to clean off the part of the tree that got wet during the rain and get to the dry fibers of the tree. I remove the wet bark and I get to the dry core, and at the same time, I will use the bark to the start of my fire. I use cotton as a tinder. We need to add some more shavings. I will also need dry, thin branches to make a fire. And the branches that are not wet I am going to put further from the ground so that the wind can blow through these branches. I stack them on my lava brazier, and on the side, I'll try to start a small fire, which I will later turn into the main fire. In order to light the tinder, I will need a flamethrower. Using the back of a little saw, that is a part of my Swiss knife, I cut a spark out of the flint. The most important thing is to get a small fire, and once you have it, even damp wood will gradually burn, evaporating moisture, and dry fibers will gradually burn stronger. Cotton catches fire very quickly and easily, but this is not enough to set firewood on fire. Everything is wet and damp, but I don't give up. It's very important to get a fire to cook my prey. No one said it would be easy, but I'm not giving up. I'll add more dry shavings. And now I finally get my first fire, and with it I will build the main fire. The sun is up and it's getting hot. Now let me show you in more detail exactly how the mechanism in my crab trap works. As you can see, the main element of the trap is the entrance door. It is not perfect, but it works and it helped me to catch this monster. So this door is pulled by a little rubber band. I just tie the rubber band around the door and that's enough. I tie a rope to the top of the door and put it inside the trap. And inside, I have a small branch tied to this rope. With one side of this branch, I attach to the trap. And I hold the long part with my hand, then to this branch, which is the trigger. I adjust another long branch and make a spacer on the inside of the trap. Well, now I'll show you how this mechanism works. Let me show on a crab. I charge this fuse again, make a spacer with the second branch, and it's done. So here's Mr. Crab. He goes into my trap and touches this spacer with his claw. The trigger goes off and the door closes and our prey is trapped. And the fire is already gradually burning. It is possible to cook my prey. But the crab must be sedated beforehand. Since the wood is raw, the fire burns slowly. But this is good because my task is to smoke crab meat. And that's why I used eucalyptus wood for my fire. While the crab is frying and smoking, I want to try using this crab trap as a fish trap and set it underwater to attempt catching some fish. I use a piece of lava as a weight to prevent the trap from floating. But to make it more interesting for you, I'm placing my video camera in this trap so you can see what's happening underwater. I submerge the trap into the water, hoping to catch both big and small fish. The depth turns out to be quite deep, and I can't reach the bottom with my hand, so I release the trap to let it sink underwater. So, my friends, do you think any fish will get caught in this trap without bait or not? Write your predictions in the comments. Why did I descend to the lake? Because tonight, I want to engage in night underwater hunting once again, using my primitive Hawaiian pole spear, hoping to catch another big fish by the end of the season and smoke it on eucalyptus leaves. Eucalyptus wood burns very weakly, but it produces excellent smoke and heat because eucalyptus trees contain a lot of essential oils that smoke well and give a delicious smoky aroma to the dish. There are very few places near the lake where you can set up camp. It's all cacti, thorns, and sharp lava everywhere. But between two trees, I managed to set up my hammock where I can spend the night. While the crab is getting ready, I'll take a little break. The smell of crab doesn't let me rest. I'm very hungry, and it smells delicious. After 10 minutes, my crab is ready. It's time to taste it. Look at how big its claw is. There must be a lot of meat in it. Just look at this color. The outer part even sticks to my fingers because of the eucalyptus oil. I can already imagine how tasty the smoked fish will be if I manage to catch it tonight. Using a knife, I'll crack open the claws and extract the delicious, juicy meat from them. The claw is very big, and there's plenty of meat in it. The only thing I really don't like about this lake is that there are so many flies here. They crawl everywhere, in my eyes, in my mouth, on my food. It's a bit annoying and prevents me from fully satisfying my hunger and enjoying the moment. But the crab was very tasty, the meat juicy and even sweet, and the smoky smell and eucalyptus aroma are beyond words. In my opinion, this tree is just perfect. The crab's meat isn't only in the large claws, but also in its body. Each leg has a piece of meat on it. The crab is very tasty, so I eat every last bit of it. By the way, I wish you a pleasant appetite too. I've moved the crab trap, which I'm currently using as a fish trap, a little deeper and closer to the grass. I noticed there are more fish there, and I thought it would give me a better chance of catching something. And now, let's see together what's happening underwater. Almost immediately, a small fish became curious about what's underwater here, surrounded and closely inspected my trap. But then, something happened that I didn't expect. And there it goes. My camera detached and simply fell off. When I finished eating, it was time to retrieve the trap from underwater. Maybe I caught something. What do you think? Is there anything there or not? The trap wasn't underwater for long. Perhaps the fish didn't have time to get used to it yet. Or maybe I still need to use some bait inside. In any case, I'll improve this trap and make it more versatile. On land, I'll catch crabs or some small birds, and underwater, I'll use it as a fish trap. But my main mission today is night underwater hunting in the lake formed in the crater of a volcano. And for this, I'll use a mask with a snorkel, and of course, a Hawaiian pole spear. I just need to sharpen it a bit after the last hunt, and for that, I'll use a small fragment of lava. Well, it's getting dark already, so I'll hide the trap to not mess around with it and get ready for underwater hunting. Just look at those clouds around the volcano. It's mesmerizing. The sun gradually dipped below the horizon, and night fell. I put on my Hawaiian pole spear and dive underwater. The water was icy, very cold and murky. But this time, I had much more experience, so even in such dark and murky water, I could orient myself better. I searched for small caves in those fragments of hardened lava. That's where the fish were. In one of the first caves, I found a small tilapia and easily caught it. I swim further exploring the underwater world, but I noticed that the big fish were deeper. Descending deeper, I spot another larger tilapia in front of me. And fueled by adrenaline, I hastily take a shot. It wasn't entirely accurate. I hit the fish but didn't secure it. I couldn't afford to lose this trophy. Instantly, without a rubber band, I attack again and pin it down. Now it's crucial to retrieve the fish and manage my air supply correctly. Especially since I swam into a small cave with sharp hardened lava overhead. In my hands, I have potential prey. I grab the fish with my hand and rise to the surface to take a breath. The catch is in my hands, but it doesn't mean I've caught it yet, because just as I relaxed to film and show you, the trophy fish twitched and slipped out of my hands. Fortunately, it didn't swim far, and I immediately spotted it again and firmly grabbed it with both hands. Now it's definitely mine. Mission accomplished, and the trophy is caught. Now I know what I'll be smoking tomorrow, and there I see bamboo ahead, which is a good sign. And sure enough, underneath it was another big tilapia. But by the time I chose the right angle to attack it, it quickly vanished into the murky water. Another trophy missed. I swim on, peering into the dark water attentively. And here, I was very surprised to see before my eyes a fish exactly like the one I once had in an aquarium. Does anyone know what it's called? I swim on, see another tilapia, but it's quite small. And this one is more interesting, but I couldn't catch it because I damaged the tip of my Hawaiian pole spear quite badly. It bent, and now it's not working well. A couple more mishaps and it'll break completely. Another fish, I hit it, but it slips off my tip again. Also, I've had problems because my tip consists of two sharp fragments and the fish simply gets between them. That's why often spear have tips with 3 fragments, but I did manage to catch this tilapia. This lake is quite an aggressive environment for underwater hunting. Besides the cold, icy and murky water, sharp, hardened lava, and deep caves, there are also clusters of huge cacti with big sharp spines underwater. And at the moment when I surface, if I don't look up in time, I might bump into them and injure myself quite badly. And under the water, it could lead to an infection. I definitely didn't expect to encounter this underwater, so always be on guard during underwater hunting. I'm freezing badly, so I'll come out and warm up. The fish is definitely over a kilogram, which is quite large for tilapia. Friends, even despite the protective suit, I'm terribly cold, just terribly cold. But most importantly, there's prey, and it's big. It's a well-deserved trophy. Even with such a mini primitive spear, you can catch a monster. It took me a few tries. I hope it's visible on the video, but it's huge. For tilapia, it's definitely a trophy. The largest tilapia I've ever caught. Wow. First, I made a fire and warmed up a bit, cleaned my fish and dipped it in the lake. I'm using the reserve of salt I obtained by primitive methods. I'm salting it. It's time to go to bed. Morning has come. To be honest, I didn't sleep much as usual. But it's okay, I'll catch up on sleep later. To smoke my fish, I want to make a grill out of lava, so I found some small lava fragments and packed them in my backpack. Moving on. Surviving barefoot is a terrible idea. Something bit me on the leg and now it's swollen and hurts quite a lot. My shoes didn't survive until the end of this season, which is why I'm walking barefoot. I won't smoke the fish by the lake, there are way too many flies here. So I'm heading into the pine forest. Along the way, I'll gather some more eucalyptus branches and leaves. They'll be the base of my smoker, imparting a unique, smoky aroma to my fish. At one point, I even wanted to climb a tree to gather more leaves, but the tree was too wet and slippery. I decided not to waste my energy and found a bush at the bottom, from which I collected a few more eucalyptus leaves. Meanwhile, my right leg was hurting and swelling more and more. Eucalyptus is actually a very useful find. Its leaves can even be used as medicine, for example, for making inhalations. Additionally, these leaves can be steeped to make a makeshift sauna somewhere in the cold forest at the foot of the volcano. In any case, it's a multifunctional and useful plant. I also need to find a convenient place to build a fire and cook my catch. To prepare the fish, I need to start a fire. In the damp forest, this is very difficult but possible. First, I'll gather some firewood. Despite being wet outside, they're dry and crumbly inside. I'll use this fluff as tinder to make starting the fire a bit easier. Now, it's time to prepare the fish. It's been marinating overnight. I'll clean it a bit more with a knife and add some salt. That's the good piece of meat I'll be cooking today. The salt is coarse-grained, so I'm not afraid of oversalting. The fish will absorb just as much as it needs. Therefore, I sprinkle generously and densely with salt. I need to find a few more dry branches. The fire is burning. I have a couple of limes left in my backpack. I'll cut them in half with a knife and generously pour the fish with juice, both outside and inside. Done. While the fire is burning, the fish will marinate a bit more. The fire burns slowly because the wood is damp, but that's good. I don't need intense heat. I'll level the coals a bit with a stick and prepare the grill. On top of the coals, I'll lay out eucalyptus leaves. They'll gradually smolder and produce a good dense smoke, which I'll use to smoke my fish. On top of the leaves, I'll lay out small fragments of lava so that the fish can be placed on top of them. And when the leaves burn out, the fish won't directly contact the coals and won't burn. Now, on top of the lava, I'll place my catch. The leaves immediately started to smoke upon contact with the coals. I'll lay out the remaining eucalyptus leaves on top of the fish. From the heat, they'll also release their aroma to the upper part of the fish and thus will block the oxygen access. The lower leaves won't ignite. The smoker immediately kicked in. So that the smoke doesn't escape, I'll take these large leaves and cover the smoker on top to additionally hold the smoke cloud over the fish. The leaves immediately started to release oil, and the smoker began to smoke heavily. Look at the smoke cloud hovering over my fish. I'll check the fish. It looks juicy. Just another 10 minutes and it'll be ready. I need to keep an eye on the process because the bottom leaves will start to burn and I'll need to replace them in time. So, I'll transfer the fish to a plate. Place the upper eucalyptus leaves under the fish from below. And flip the fish to the other side. I'll cover the smoker back up with these leaves. The fish is already a golden color and the smell is spreading throughout the forest. It's a very delicious aroma. The smoker works very well. There's really nothing complicated about it. After another 10 minutes, the fish is ready. I'll wait a bit for it to cool down and then enjoy it. It looks very juicy and appetizing. With the help of such a primitive smoker, I quickly managed to cook a large fish. And it turned out to be just as good in taste as from a professional smoker with quality smoking chips. It's really easy and very tasty, my friends. The taste of smoke. So delicious, incredibly tasty. Tilapia itself is a very tasty and fatty fish, and when I smoke it like this, friends, I officially declare it the most delicious fish I've ever cooked under such conditions. Juicy. Not dried out, not burnt, perfectly smoked. Just look, it's perfect. The taste of smoke, the smell. And ever since, eucalyptus wood has become my favorite for smoking fish. I assure you, you need to try it. If eucalyptus grows in your region, definitely try smoking fish or meat on this wood. It's a delight. You just need a big mug of cold kvass to accompany this fish. Very tasty, seriously, like in the best restaurant. Oh, it turned out so delicious. I had a couple of limes left, so I added their juice and used salt for the smoked fish. Salt is definitely important in smoking. Juicy taste, rich aroma. It's just difficult for me to describe it in words. I wish I could somehow transmit this taste to you through the screen. I know you're eating too, friends, so let's all enjoy our meal together. It's a delight. Well, friends, this survival experience was very interesting and most importantly, as usual, very tasty. I managed to survive in the forest for 24 hours and find food and water for myself. And if you enjoyed this video, only then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.